Welcome to online study on Indian Penal Code. Before going to discuss the provisions in Indian Penal Code, you should know at least what is this Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code is the general criminal law of our country. What is criminal law? You are aware that when a wrong is committed, the court administers justice. War and administration of justice are two primary functions of the state. Why? Every state has two functions, primary function and secondary function. As a student of political science, you know that state has two functions, that is this war and administration, that is primary function, and secondary function are the welfare measures. Why war? War means no state will not do war, state will not indulge in war, protecting our territory from external attack. For that there must be either army, soldiers, some persons, there may be a defense force. That is, they protect the territory of our country from external attack. Second, administration of justice. That is, police and courts are engaged in administration of justice. So, when justice is administered, this justice may be again divided into two categories, two types of justice. One is criminal justice and the other is civil justice. Civil justice, when a civil wrong. What is wrong? Law recognizes, laws according to law, wrong is that which affects somebody's legal right. If somebody's legal right is not affected, we cannot say it is a wrong. It is a legal wrong. Wrong against civil wrong and crime. When a wrong affects a particular person, affects a personam, a wrong in personam is a civil wrong. Wrong in rem is a crime. In every wrong, a particular individual is affected. But crime is that, though that a particular individual, a wrong is committed against an individual, but thereby the entire society is affected. Suppose a murder takes place, though a particular person was killed, but other people in the country, they are afraid of, they are in panic. So that's why, that's a crime. Somebody's land was encroached. That's not a crime because the others are not bothered. The person against whom that wrong is committed, he will take the law into motion and to seek for justice. The difference between crime and civil wrong, you are aware. In case of civil wrong, that is a wrong in personam. In case of crime, that's a wrong in rem, affecting the society at large. In case of civil wrong, that wrong affects a particular person, society is not affected. In case of civil wrong, the person against whom the wrong is committed, he approaches the court. He takes the law into motion to get redressal in the court of law. But in case of crime, the state interferes. State comes into picture. State takes the law into motion to see that the criminal is punished. In case of civil wrong, the remedy, what is the remedy? Either payment of compensation or payment of money or restoration of property. In case of crime, what is the remedy? To punishment, either punishment by way of fine or jail or death sentence, that is punishment. In case of civil wrong, whatever compensation is realized, that goes to the person against whom that civil wrong is committed. But in case of crime, when punishment, that is penalty is imposed, fine is realized, that goes to the state exchequer, state fund. So this, you always hear all these things, what is crime, what is civil wrong. So crime affects the society at large. State has the responsibility to see that it is takes the burden or takes the responsibility to punish a criminal. So that's why we find some heinous crimes, some offences which affect the society, more heinous in nature, we say those are cognizable offences, or some offences are non-bailable, made non-bailable offences. So state files a case, so that's why we say state versus this. But in case of complaint case, that's a private complaint. Sometimes a case is also instituted a private complaint. So in case of non-conclusive offence, police doesn't register a case, which only section 154 of the CRPC provides. A report which discloses a cognizable commission of a cognizable offence, police is bound to register a case. So this is the background you should know before your study, before you are going to study the Indian Penal Code. So what is Indian Penal Code? It is because it is confined to India. So that's why Indian penal means causing pain to somebody, either fine, punishment, death sentence. Code means why code is there? It is systematically arranged. This Indian Penal Code, previously we find in certain code, act, ordinance, such of the, because it has not been originally passed in the Indian Parliament. It has been passed by Britishers. British have given this code. So even criminal procedure code, we say, why we say it is a code? Because it was not originally passed in this Indian Penal Code, this Indian Parliament. Because it was previously given by the Britishers. That code was also used, Indian Penal Code. But many things, those codes are there, they do not legislature. If criminal procedure code, even after amendment, the state legislature doesn't think it proper to change the nomenclature of the act. That is, it is criminal procedure code, not a criminal procedure act. It is not there. So here, this Indian Penal Code defines offences and prescribes punishment. You should know. What is the Indian Penal Code? Defines offences, prescribes punishment. What type of offences? Usually general offences, offences which are generally committed in a society. There is no society where there is no offence. Society, when man lives in society, we have conflict of interest. There is the similar financial background of all persons are not equal. There is inequality, both in this monetary inequality, in property inequality, and also intellectual inequality. Some persons are also they are very prone to commit a wrong. There are intellectual persons, various even different. That doesn't mean that intellectual person doesn't commit crime, but crime, so long society is there is crime cannot be totally eliminated. Somehow or other there will be crime. But the object is by giving a penal provision, that is penal provision. Why penalty is given? You should know also why penalty is given. You should also understand what is the purpose of penalty, punishment. Because if you have some bare idea on the theory of punishment, you should know it. Primitive man was living in the forest. There the life was very short. People were fighting with each other and might was the right. Then life was very short. Only the person who is a strong person, he was able to take the resources. So again these people live in the family. Family was created. One family in a group, they were protecting their property or person. Then there was lawlessness in the society. So people thought, so let there be headman. He should decide when there is a conflicting interest. Then headmanship came in villages. Headman was deciding. So then again that was delegated to a king. This power of administration of justice, that was delegated to the king. And later democracy came. In a democratic setup, so we have a better law. This law is also never remain static. Law changes from time to time. There cannot be a law for all time to come. Because society is changing, people's behavior is changing. So previously, say you take for example, the divorce. In Hindu law, there was no divorce. Divorce was unknown to Hindu law. But because of change of this lifestyle, etc., we introduced this divorce. in the Hindu Marriage Act. This is because law is never static. Law changes from time to time. Similarly, Indian Penal Code has been changed at various times, even after Nirbhaya case, so far as offence against this, so offence of rape, definition of rape, etc., the punishment prescribed for the offence was drastically changed. Thereafter, to protect the women from dowry death, women from harassment, new laws, new sections were included. Cruelty to women, dowry death, all sorts these provisions were made. So time will also come that we will again change, modify this Indian Penal Code. Though it was enacted in the year 1860, but it came to force in the 1862. You should know how this, as per the Law Commission, first Law Commission report, in the year 1834, attempt was made to codify the general criminal law of our country. Thereafter, but unfortunately, this Macaulay had given this report. Macaulay's report on Indian Penal Code was taken. By the time when this Indian Penal Code came into force, Macaulay was not alive. But thereafter, after partition, this Indian Penal Code was also applicable, was made applicable to Pakistan, even to Bangladesh, in certain part of British territory. That is still application. So, Indian Penal Code is the general criminal law of our country. So, Indian Penal Code, that is, it is confined to India, penal, which is punishment, prescribed punishment, and codified systematically arranged. It is there enacted. So, Indian Penal Code defines offences and prescribes punishment. From 121, section 121 onwards to 510, we find only definitions and some, that is, what is the offence, what is punishment, what a particular offence, various offences have been named and particular punishment has been prescribed. In the first part of this section, we find some definition and some general exceptions. General exceptions are 76 to 106, general exception. Those, you should bear this mind. Always, if you remember, there are, what is what is an offence? What is the particular, what is theft, what is punishment, what is extortion, what is punishment, what is murder, what is punishment, that is there in different sections. So now, we do not want to take much time on this background. You should know this, at least the Indian Penal Code is the general criminal law of our country. There are other criminal laws, there are special laws, special acts are there. Suppose a Prevention Corruption Act, because nowadays to change socio-economic offences, new law was necessary. Suppose to curb this use of these drugs, narcotic substances, NDPS Act was to check the crime against some weaker persons, scheduled tribe person, SC/ST Act is there. So different forest laws, excise laws, different these special laws were made also. Those laws are supplemental to the Indian Penal Code. Indian Penal Code, the entire object of the Indian Penal Code is to how to control crime, how to curb control crime. That is punishment. You are now, so this punishment mostly preventive in nature. By when a sentence is imposed, imprisonment is imposed, that is a preventive punishment. So you are aware of the theory of punishment, pain. Why punishment is given? You can tell, because when a crime is committed, then if a punishment is given, first it meets the personal revenge, it satisfies the personal revenge, personal vengeance of the victim, first thing. If punishment is not imposed, then the victim will search for the opportunity to commit another act or another injury against the person who has caused the injury to him. So in such case, so that's why punishment is imposed. First, when a punishment is given, that gives the personal revenge of the victim. Second, when a person is sent to jail, that is preventive measure, for some years he is prevented. Third is it also deterrent in nature, because people are aware that for a particular offence, this type of punishment is prescribed. So he is deterred. Their crime is checked, thereby the crime is checked. Even after serving certain sentence, if a criminal returns from the jail, society forgets the crime because society that feels pity on that person. Here is a person who had committed a crime, he suffered certain sentence and accept that person in the mainstream of the society. That is the object. So you should know that is Indian Penal Code defines offences and prescribes punishment. Those definitions are found from section 121 to 510. So in this context you should have some knowledge also. For India, for a crime, what are that? There must be an act of human being. If a animal commits an act that causes an injury, that animal is not punishable because there must be a human being, an act of a human being. Act, and what is offence? Offence has been defined in section that is 50. There is also section 2N and section 40. Section 40 of the IPC defines what is offence. What it defines? That says that any act or omission made punishable by Indian Penal Code is an offence. Similarly, section 2A of the Criminal Procedure Code says that any act or omission made punishable by the IPC or any other law for the time being force is an offence. So, if a nutshell, any act or omission punishable by law is an offence. These definitions we find in section 40 of the Indian Penal Code. Offence has been defined. In section 2A of the Criminal Procedure Code, offence has been defined. Any act or omission that is punishable under the Indian Penal Code or under any other law for the time being in force. So that is offence. Offence, for committing an offence, there must be an human being, there must be an act, somebody must commit an act or omission. So there must be an mens rea. You are either, mens rea means evil intention, guilty intention. If a mens rea is some offences, so which has been specifically mentioned that without mens rea that is punishable, then only that is liable, that is to be treated as an offence. But in India, invariably on all acts without guilty intention, that will not be an offence unless it has been specifically provided in this section, mens rea is not required. If you will go through the section, this mens rea is not required. So fundamental basic principle of criminal liability, you are aware, that is, so for every offence there is mens rea is required. But in India, that is without actus reus mens rea is notice totally not applicable because Indian Penal Code has, in almost all the offences we find intention, fraudulently, such things have been clearly mentioned. That is, mens rea is also required. Only all for act there must be a mens rea for which there is an offence. If an act has been committed without mens rea, that is excluded. There must be. But when exception is there, even it has been specifically provided without mens rea, that is punishable, then only it is punishable. That is actus reus mens rea. So in this context, you should know what is crime? Crime is an act not only punishable law, but is also revolting to the moral sentiments of the society. It is punishable law, it affects the society. So that that is crime. So essential of a crime, you should know, that is there must be a human being, guilty intent or a mens rea, act or omission, or that is actus reus. Actus reus means there is act or omission and there is harm or injury. Harm has been any injury. So human being is only subject to committing a crime. Suppose if only a grown-up human being, and that is a person, suppose an infant, incapable of knowing the nature and consequence of the act, for that he is exempted. His act is also exceptional. That is general exception. Similarly, insane person, because he is not treated as a competent human being to commit a crime. So suppose a company previously law has been changed, company is also liable to commit crime because company previously there was law that only when such of the offences which are punishable fine only, then the company is liable. But later the law was changed, even company directors, managing directors, they are liable for this imprisonment in certain cases. So, Minceteria, actus non facit reum is Minceteria. That means the act itself does not make a man guilty of a crime unless his intention is also guilty. This is applicable in England, but this doctrine was first applicable in England. In this context, people see the first leading case in the matter was R versus Prince. In this case, what happened? That is, like our penal law, the single English has their offences against the Person Act 1861. Offences against the Person Act 1861. In this case, what happened? That a unmarried girl named Annie Philip, named Annie, aged 14 years, she was taken away by the accused without the consent of her parents. This offense against the Person Act 1861 provided then that whoever will take a girl below 16 years without the consent of her father or mother, then he is liable for punishment. In this case, what happened? The girl represented to the accused that she was 18 years old. From her appearance also, the accused believed that she was 18 years. And she took the girl. The girl eloped with that accused. Then the accused faced trial. There a question arose whether when the accused had no intention, guilty intention, he should not be punished. But some judges differed. So one judge, Brett, accepted the argument and held that the accused had no intention to commit the offense. But the other judge, Bramwell, he expressed his opinion that offense which are mahim in se, that is both legal as well as moral wrong, and offences which are mahim prohibition, only legal wrong. And he said that for the offense which there is a legal wrong and moral wrong, Minceria is not mahim, that is muhim in se, Minceria would be presumed and need not be specifically proved. In case of moral wrong, that Minceria will be presumed. In such case, he held that Prince had committed immoral act in taking away the unmarried girl. His Minceria under section 50 would be presumed. That is, would be presumed. You see, another judge, J. Damon, expressed the view that since Prince had knowingly committed a tort, that is also a seduction, this would be sufficient Minceria. Knowingly committed a tort, that will be a sufficient Minceria under section 55, and he was guilty. The matter, and accordingly, there was punishment was given. So this case has been that was criticized in various angles. So here, as expressed view that all the judges in the case were influenced by the concern. In this case, that is Rossley, and there was criticism that judges were persuaded that for the protection of the young girl from sexual offenders, and they must be protected the indignation with the general public. But he left her, that is another case. In another case, what happened? In R versus Talson, that the wife, they believed that her husband was not hard for 7 years and had gone to America without a good belief, believing that her husband was dead. She married for the second time. So there, the question again arose whether Minceria did form a part of any implication in the definition of bigamy. At the trial, the court gave direction to in that case, there was jury trial. The judge gave a direction to the jury that belief in good faith and of reasonable ground that the husband was dead would not be a defense in the charge of bigamy. Accordingly, this is sentenced to 1 day imprisonment. Then in the appeal, what is that? The Court of Appeal quashed the construction of the trial, majority 9-5 judges, and held that a bona fide belief on reasonable ground in the death of the husband at the time of second marriage was a good defense to the charge of bigamy. So that's why in section 494 of the Indian Penal Code, there is a provision that if either husband or the wife believing that if either the other spouse is not hard for 7 years or more, and inform such fact to the person to whom he or she is marrying second time, then bigamy will not be that will not be applicable. That will not be, he will not be liable for bigamy. That is clearly it has been explained. So here, thus in this case it was held. But in India what happens? The Supreme Court in the state of Uttar Pradesh and Hari Prasad Rao in 19 have expressed the view that the maxim actus non facit reum nis minceteria has no application to the offences under the Indian Penal Code. The view was based on a distinction between common law offence and the statutory offence under the English law. So here, that is, that the doctrine is fully, that is in Indian Penal Code, what it says, the doctrine of minceria has been incorporated in the Indian Code in the following two ways. So care has been taken while defining offences that there must be an intention. There is intention is there. Chapter IV, that is 76 to 106, excludes the certain acts which are no intention. That is a null exception. So this is not applicable. Indian Court, this view was, that is, unless there is a specific Brent versus Wood case that has been followed. What it says, Brent versus, it is of the utmost importance for the protection of the liberty of the subjects that the court should always bear in mind that unless a statute either expressly or by necessary implication rules out minceria as a constituent part of crime, no person should be found guilty unless he has the guilty mind. So that's why in every for an offence, if a person is liable for an offence only when there is a guilty mind. If guilty mind is not there, then he is not liable. Only such of the offences where express provision is there, that will be treated as an offence, even without minceria, then in that case, it will be treated as offence. This is the law in India. All the guilty mind is there. So, actus reus minceria, that is not applicable. But here, minceria is one of the requirement for an offence. Act or omission, the act must be there. Act may be one act or series of act. There may be omission. That omission denotes always a series of omissions. That is section 33 also defines. Section 32 of the Indian Penal Code defines act, denotes series of acts. There must be an injury. Injury means any harm. Harm is caused to a person. That is also a requirement for the offence. That is injury. So that's why you should know. This is Indian Penal Code. So here, now let us come to the provisions as laid down in the Indian Penal Code. So invariably, if you go through the Bare Act, why I am following this Bare Act? I cannot add anything to the law. What the law is, you should know. Once you know what the law is by reading the law word by word, then you will be fundamentally clear. The law is never taught in a lecture method. Sometimes, in my experience, even during my student career, in some lectures, lectures were not making the fundamentally clear to the student on a particular act, particular subject. Once a student is taught law, referring the Bare Act and going through learning the provisions by word, then he will interpret the law. Now, preamble, you are aware, preamble is given to a statute and act. What is? It is a index, it is the index to key to open the act. When the preamble is the key to open the act, key to open a statute. What is this? Preamble is a shortly, it is informed to the general public. What is the aim and object of a legislation? Our constitution has a preamble. By going through the preamble, that we should know, we can know, visualize, it is clear why the constitution are, what is our democracy, what is the aim and object of this constitution. So here, it is also part of the act. When it is to be referred, that is to be referred when there is ambiguity. If a statute is clear, section is clear, preamble will not be followed. So what is that preamble? Whereas it is expedient to provide a general penal code for India, it is enacted as follows. So this preamble makes it clear that it was necessary to provide a general penal code for India. Because prior to enactment, there was no codification of penal laws. Penal laws were not certain. Suppose for Hindu, a different type of penal law, for Mohammedan, different type of Qazis were administering law. So, whereas it is administered, the king was taking the help of the Pandits, Qazis to administer criminal law, according to Dharma Shastras, Quranic views, those are there. So, wherever it was necessary or it was expedient is required, necessary, whereas it is expedient to provide a general penal code for India, it is enacted as follows. So, general penal code was not there prior to coming into force of this Indian Penal Code 1860. So, that's why it was enacted. Title and extent of the operation of the code. This act shall be called the Indian Penal Code and shall extend to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. No, now it is requires amendment. So, but not by Jammu and Kashmir Reconstruction Act, that is. Now, all laws, even Indian Penal Code is, Ranveer Penal Code is no more in force now in India, this Jammu and Kashmir. So, probably from 1908, this 2018 or 19, 18, that this Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, by virtue of that, this Indian Penal Code is now applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. So now you should know what is preamble. It is its territorial presence. To each part of India it is applicable, to whole of India, except Jammu and Kashmir is not there. So punishment of offences committed within India. This is every person. Who is a person? Person is a human being. Person is a body corporate. That we find person has been defined. Every person. What is person? You see the definition of person. What is the person has been defined? Person, section 11. The word person includes any company or association or a body of persons, whether incorporated or not. So every person means even a company, even a association or body corporate, body of persons, whether incorporated, whether it is registered, whether it is incorporated or not. That's a person. So now what section 2 says? Every person shall be liable to punishment under this code and not otherwise. Only for this, every person shall be liable under this code and not otherwise. By not other law, for every act or omission contrary to the provisions thereof, contrary to the provisions thereof, contrary to the provisions of the Indian Penal Code, of which he shall be guilty within India. If that contrary, he will be guilty in India, then he will be liable for punishment. So what is punishment of offences committed within India? This is every person. You go, every person here, person may be a human being, a person may be a body corporation, or a person may be a company, a person may have association of persons, whether it is incorporated or not, shall be liable to punishment. He will be liable to punishment under the Indian Penal Code and not otherwise. Once that is an offence, that is, he is found guilty for committing a particular act or omission within the provisions of Indian Penal Code, then he will be liable for punishment under this Indian Penal Code, under this penal, and not otherwise. For every act or omission contrary to the provisions thereof. Provisions thereof means contrary to the provisions of the Indian Penal Code, of which he shall be guilty within India. If he will be guilty in India. Punishment offences committed beyond, but which by law may be tried in India. Now section 3 says, committed punishment for offences. An offence which is committed beyond India, but by law he may be tried in India. If a person has committed a particular offence in outside India, but he may be tried in India. When? What it says? Any person liable by any Indian law to be tried for an offences committed beyond India. If by Indian law every person is liable for trial, any person liable by any Indian law to be tried for an offence committed by India. If a person he is liable under any law in India to be tried in India for an offence committed beyond India, shall be dealt with according to the provision of this code for any act committed beyond India. Suppose a murder was committed outside India, that is in America. If as per the law made by Indian Parliament, as per the law is there in India, that he can be tried for an offence which he commits outside India, in India, then that act will be treated as offence as per the provisions of the Indian Penal Code, and he will be liable for the punishment as per the Indian Penal Code. What it says? You go through it. Any person liable by any Indian law, if under any Indian law, to be tried for an offence committed beyond India. If a person is liable for trial by Indian law for any offence committed beyond India, shall be dealt with according to the provision of this code. For one, for any act committed beyond India. That means he will be that whatever act, if that will be that you will commit this, if that act falls under any of the category of the offence as defined in the Indian Penal Code, then for that offence you will be tried. And beyond India, in the same manner, as if such act had been committed within India. As if such act had been committed within India. You should understand. Any person. First, if a person is liable under any Indian law for trial in India, for any act or omission, or for an offence committed, this offence, what is not there? For an offence is there. For any offence committed beyond India, then he will be dealt under this Indian Penal Code in the same manner as if such act had been committed within India. That means you will be tried as per the, suppose a murder is committed in America. If law permits that he will be tried in India, then he will be dealt as if he had committed that murder in India. For any committed beyond India, in the same manner as if such act had been committed within India. It will be treated that offence has been committed within. Extension of code of extraterritorial offences. Some extraterritorial, outside territory offences, territory of India, some offences are committed. This Indian Penal Code will be extended. Some offences committed outside territory. The provisions of this code apply also to any offence committed by any citizen of India in any place without and beyond India. This is, so mark the difference. In section 4, only a citizen of India. But here under section 3, any person. So not a citizen. What he says? Any person. So you should mark, if you understand the provisions, what changes? Only an Indian citizen, when he commits any offence beyond India, he will also be liable. What is the provision of this code apply also to any offence committed if an Indian citizen commit an offence which is punishable under Indian Penal Code in any place without and beyond India, then the Indian Penal Code will be applicable to him. Second, any person on any ship or aircraft registered in India, wherever it may be. Again, you see a person, not citizen, even an American person, even a French person, Germany person, any person on any ship or aircraft registered in India, wherever it may be, even it is that if a ship or aircraft, wherever it may be, any part of the world, if any person who commits, because the ship or aircraft which is registered in India, that will be treated as the territory of India for the purpose of this code. So any person, here any citizen committing an offence which is punishable under the Indian Penal Code in any part of the world, then he is liable for this extraterritorial application. Indian Penal Code will be applicable to him. Similarly, any person on any ship or aircraft registered in India, wherever it may be. Third, again any person, not citizen, any person in any place without and beyond India committing offences targeting a computer resource located in India. Because this is cyber crime. If any person in any place without and beyond India, suppose a person, either Indian citizen or a British citizen, any person in any place, either any place without and beyond India, that is outside India, committing offence targeting a computer resource located in India, then in such case he will be liable for the offence committed under the Indian Penal Code. Then the Indian Penal Code has extraterritorial operation on that person. So here now explanation in this section, the word offence includes every act committed outside India which if committed in India would be punishable under this code. If an act which is committed outside India and that is not punishable in India, then that will not be treated as an offence as per the provisions of section 4. Now the expression computer resource shall have the meaning assigned to it in clause K of subsection 1 of section 2 of the Information Technology Act 2000, that is computer resource. Now section 5, certain laws not to be affected by this act. Nothing in this act, nothing contained in the Indian Penal Code shall affect the provisions of any act for punishing mutiny. So if any provision is there, nothing in this act shall affect the provisions of any act. So what is the provision? Any act is there for punishing mutiny and desertion of offences, soldiers, sailors or airmen in the service of government India, or the provision of any special or local law. Then this Indian Penal Code will not affect any of the provisions of any act which is enacted, which is there for punishment of mutiny or for prevention of desertion of soldiers, for army, air force and navy, sailors or airmen in the service of the government of India, or the provisions of the special or local laws. Special laws are there on a particular subject, say for Prevention of Corruption Act. After passing of Prevention of Corruption Act, the offence of bribery against public servant as provided in section 161 onwards, those sections were repealed. So now, what is that? Nothing in this act shall affect the provisions of any act for punishment of mutiny and desertion of officers. Desertion, punishment for desertion of officers, soldiers, sailors and airmen in the service of the government of India. Desertion of officers, soldiers, sailors or airmen in the service of government of India, that is army, navy and air force officers. Government of India or the provisions of any special or local law. That means the Indian Penal Code will not affect, nothing that shall affect, will not affect any criminal law on a whatever special law. What are special criminal law? Suppose the NDPS Act is a special criminal law. This SC/ST Act, Prevention of SC/ST Act, that is offences against SC/ST Act, SC/ST persons, that is a special law. So this Indian Penal Code will not affect the provisions of those acts. Which acts? Special laws, local laws, any act which is there to prevent, that is provision of any punishment for mutiny or for desertion from army, navy and air force. Thank you all. In the next class, we will discuss the definitions provided in the Act. Thank you all.